It started with a support call that sounded legitimate, then turned into a scam that gave strangers full control over people's devices and bank accounts. The caller claimed to be from a tech company, a bank, or even a government service, warning about a serious issue that needed immediate attention. Victims were guided to install software that appeared to fix the problem, but actually allowed remote access to their computer or phone. Once connected, scammers could see everything: files, passwords, banking sessions, and personal information in real time. They reassured victims that the process was normal, using technical language and step-by-step instructions to maintain trust. In many cases, victims stayed on the call while transactions were initiated directly from their own devices. Globally, remote access scams have caused millions in losses, often within a single session lasting less than an hour. What felt like technical support was actually a system designed to turn access into financial control. By the late 2010s and early 2020s, remote access scams had become a major form of fraud across countries like Australia, the United States, and the United Kingdom. These scams were typically run by organized call center operations posing as tech support, banks, or government services. Victims often received unexpected calls or pop-up alerts claiming their device had been compromised or required urgent fixes. In many cases, the caller introduced themselves as representatives from well-known companies or institutions to build credibility. The targets ranged from everyday users to professionals, including people comfortable with technology. In Australia, reports to ScamWatch and the OAIC showed losses reaching millions annually from these scams. What made these operations effective was the combination of fear, technical language, and real-time interaction. Victims were guided step by step, often staying on the call throughout the entire process. By the time access was granted, the situation already felt like a legitimate support session rather than a scam. The interaction usually began with a warning, either a phone call or a pop-up message claiming the device was infected or under attack. Victims were told that immediate action was required to prevent data loss, identity theft, or financial compromise. The caller guided them to download well-known remote access tools, presenting them as standard support software used by professionals. Because these tools were legitimate applications, the process felt familiar and safe to many users. Step by step, victims were instructed to open the software, share access codes, and allow full control of their device. Throughout this process, the caller maintained a calm, authoritative tone, reinforcing the idea that everything was under control. In some cases, multiple representatives were introduced, creating the impression of a structured support team. Once access was granted, the scam moved from guidance to control, without the victim fully realizing the shift. By the end of this stage, the scammer had unrestricted visibility and control over the device and its contents. Once access was established, the scammer began navigating the device in real time, often explaining each action as part of the fix. They opened system tools, command windows, or security logs, pointing to normal entries and presenting them as evidence of threats. This created a sense of urgency, making the problem feel real and already affecting the device. Victims were then guided to log into their online banking or financial accounts under the pretext of securing them. In some cases, scammers initiated transactions directly while the victim watched, describing them as protective measures. Others manipulated the screen, hiding activity or redirecting attention while funds were being transferred. Because everything happened on the victim's own device, the actions appeared legitimate and controlled. Investigations later showed that these sessions often resulted in immediate transfers ranging from a few thousand to over $50,000. By the time the session ended, access had already been used to move funds, capture credentials, or install additional monitoring tools. As the session continued, scammers often escalated the situation by claiming the problem was more serious than initially described. Victims were told that their accounts had already been accessed or that unauthorized transactions were in progress. This shifted the interaction from technical support to emergency response, increasing pressure to act quickly. Some were instructed to transfer funds to safe accounts, while others were told to purchase gift cards or move money through alternative channels. In many cases, scammers remained connected for extended periods, guiding every step and preventing independent verification. If victims hesitated, additional explanations or new team members were introduced to maintain control. Reports from the OAIC showed that some victims lost significant amounts within a single session. Behind the scenes, multiple actions were often carried out simultaneously, including data extraction and account manipulation. By this stage, the scam had fully transitioned from access to exploitation, even though victims believed they were still resolving an issue. The first signs of something being wrong usually appeared after the call ended, when victims reviewed their accounts or noticed unexpected transactions. Some discovered that funds had been transferred without their full understanding during the session. Others realized that additional software had been left installed, allowing continued access even after the call. Attempts to contact the same support service often failed, with numbers no longer reachable or redirected. Victims then reached out to their real bank or service provider, only to confirm that no such support call had been initiated. In many cases, the realization came too late, as funds had already been moved or accounts compromised. Authorities like the OAIC issued repeated warnings about these exact patterns. Banks began advising customers never to allow unsolicited remote access or share control of their devices. What initially felt like a resolved issue began to unfold as a complete loss of control of both device and finances. The scam was typically uncovered when victims reported the incident to banks, police, or consumer protection agencies after discovering unauthorized transactions. Patterns across reports showed consistent methods: unsolicited contact, remote access installation, and real-time financial activity during sessions. Agencies like the ASIC and the ACCS identified these as organized remote access fraud operations. Investigations revealed coordinated call centers using scripts, technical tools, and trained operators to guide victims through the process. Digital forensics showed how access tools were used to capture credentials, monitor activity, and execute transactions without resistance. Financial tracking indicated that funds were rapidly moved through multiple accounts, often involving international transfers and cryptocurrency conversion. In some cases, authorities were able to trace parts of the network, but recovery of funds remained limited. Banks introduced stronger alerts and transaction verification steps as a direct response to these investigations. What appeared to be isolated technical support incidents was ultimately identified as a structured system designed to convert access into financial loss. What made this scam effective was the way it used real tools, real devices, and real-time interaction to remove suspicion. Victims were not tricked into unfamiliar actions. They were guided through steps that felt consistent with legitimate support processes. The system combined urgency with authority, keeping victims engaged while control was gradually transferred. Because everything happened on the victim's own screen, the activity appeared transparent and trustworthy. Investigations showed that the same structure was reused globally, with only the script and branding changing. This allowed the scam to scale while remaining difficult to detect in early stages. The financial impact extended beyond immediate losses, including compromised accounts and ongoing access risks. For many victims, the loss occurred within a single interaction, leaving little time to react or verify. The pattern remains active today, evolving with new tools, but relying on the same core mechanism of turning access into control and control into money.